I'm your host, Skeptical Scott.
And I am this week's co-host, Artie Fisher.
Welcome to Funny You Say That. If you've ever rethought what you were taught and said, I think differently now, then this show's for you. Part history, part diary, and some music, and certainly a comedy of errors. Please join us as we drop the supernatural, embrace the rational, and believe in as many true things as possible. So, Artie, what's the title of today's show?
This is my body. This is my blood.
TGIFF. Thank God. It's Funny You Say That Friday. Huh? Last time I spoke about my friend's dad, so this time I'll let you know a little bit about mine. We did not grow up religious, though apparently I was baptized at some point as a Catholic, but maybe when I was a baby, but I didn't know about that till I was in my teens. Have you ever been to a Catholic church? I mean, let me tell you about the first time I visited. It's quite different, you know. I mean, this will be one of my final religious elementary years memories I'll be sharing, but it's just stuck in my head, so I've got to put it out there. Now, I don't know why my dad felt the need this one particular Sunday. Maybe he was heading back to the Catholic Church because he was looking for something he used to have, or maybe he just needed something for us to do that day. I don't know. But he took 4 of us elementary-aged kids to a historic Catholic church downtown. So picture this, especially with the impressionable senses of a youngling like me. It looked beautiful inside. I mean, stained glass windows depicting different scenes of the Bible in vibrant reds and blues, and a cathedral with high ceilings and well-placed lighting to make it feel both dark and light at the same time. Gold vertical pipes at the center to make the organ music that much more powerful. Yep, the smells and bells were in full force. And as kids, we simply looked on with wonder. We saw kids dressed in all white, men with robes who sounded important, and we stood up when the rest of the people stood up. We kneeled when they kneeled. We didn't recite any of the sayings because we didn't know what to say, but we just listened, and wow.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come.
We were really a part of something magical, right? Something important is happening here. Eventually, communion was being served, and we saw a bunch of people start lining up. Now, we kids were too young and inexperienced to even understand any rules or hierarchies or anything like that. But we saw people were eating and drinking something, and man, we had been sitting for a long time. So as the rows in front of us started to rise and line up, we looked at my dad, and we didn't ask him in words, but with our facial expressions, our facial expressions were saying, hey, can we go up there? He answered non-verbally. He just kind of smiled, shrugged his shoulders, and opened the palm of his hand to say, hey, if you want to, go ahead. It's funny because he didn't even go up with us. We excitedly got in line, and I'm sure some people had a hard time kneeling and praying as they watched these whispering, giggling, unsupervised heathens get in line. We each got a wafer. I don't remember the drink. I'm sure it was fine, like grape juice or something. I don't know. But I do remember the taste of the wafer, which really wasn't much of a taste at all. But what was cool is it magically dissolved without any chewing. Come on, that's so cool. And I'm sure they told us this is Jesus's body and this is his blood, but we didn't understand, nor did we care at that moment. Later in high school, I had a lot of friends who sang in a local Catholic church choir, so of course I went where my friends were. It was then I started to get serious about this communion thing. Wait, what are we doing again? We're eating Jesus? It seemed very strange to me, and I remember seeing the vampire movie, The Lost Boys, that came out right around then, and it seemed like this communion thing overlapped with that movie. I mean, we're not vampires, but we're going to drink blood like they did. While I was in that church choir for years, I was the one lost boy. I was the one heathen of that group who would not get up for communion, and I'd let the rest of the choir members pass me by each time. I guess I felt like I hadn't respected it when my dad introduced it to us as a kid, but now I was aware. I was aware enough and still didn't know that I had been baptized. I didn't feel worthy nor comfortable to do that kind of a practice. So, was my dad irresponsible to let us partake in communion when we didn't really attend? Were my parents irresponsible for letting me sing in a choir at a church they didn't even subscribe to or attend themselves? I mean, it did feel weird to get the Every Mom's Son Award at the end of the year from the moms of the choir. Come on, I have a mom. I wonder if they felt bad that I had heathen parents that didn't attend church and that maybe they had to pray and watch over me. You know, as I look back, I am happy for how my parents raised me religious-wise. They did not force any of their personal beliefs on me, but raised me to make my own decisions in this regard and develop my own understanding. Now, whether they chose that or deferred to that, I still appreciate it. Growing up, in some ways, I suspected that there was not a lot of trust from my parents towards a church, or worse yet, so-called Christian politicians. They never made me feel weird for exploring that territory. Today, though, I'm curious what you might think of communion. Is it his body? Is it his blood? Some think it's just a symbolic exercise. Some actually believe in I don't even know how to say it, transubstantiation. That bread and wine turn into the body and blood of Christ during Mass. It's funny that, and even if it is symbolic, it is a little weird when you say, it's funny that some may look at other spiritual practices outside of the United States and think they are sacrificing animals. How primitive, while forgetting that that is what their faith tradition practiced at one point. Might an outsider to Christianity scratch their head when they hear about following eating their leader's body and drinking his blood?
And Scott, let's not forget the ritual practice of circumcision.
Good point, Artie. But I think we're just going to move on from here. It's time for today's Skeptic.
We think it's real important to question what you know. But before you leave this podcast, it's the skeptic of the show. Amen.
Ricky Gervais is an English comedian, actor, writer, producer, director, and musician. You may remember him on the British TV sitcom The Office from 2001 to 2003. This was before the US created their own version of the show.
Hey, Artie, time out.
Oh no, is there a problem, Scott?
No, not really. It's just can you do that thing again? What you did on our last episode when reading the quote from Richard Dawkins, to somewhat sound like Ricky Gervais?
Your wish is my command, but I will go back to my normal co-host voice afterwards.
Sounds like a deal. All right, go ahead.
There have been nearly 3,000 gods so far, but only yours actually exists. The others are silly made-up nonsense, but not yours. Yours is real. Ricky Gervais.
What is one of the biggest factors, then, on why people choose the religion that they believe in, or the deity that they believe in? The answer: where they were born. How many rituals do you and I do just because that's how we've always done it? And might it be possible that declared beliefs are not necessarily true, but the cultural comfort and social belonging we receive are more important to us than the truthiness of a chosen God.
The world of science light, no gods to give a fright, living free with open eyes, no faith, just clear blue skies.
We appreciate you stopping by to hear some stories on Funny You Say That. Our intro music was created by an anonymous supporter of the show. Thanks, man. And any other music or sound effects were created by this week's guest co-host, Artie Fisher.
Do you have a question, comment, or a request? Send us a text in the show's description. You can also find Skeptical Scott on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Drop the supernatural, embrace the rational, and believe in as many true things as possible.
Otherwise, you may end up believing in something that is even more artificial than me.
Skeptical thoughts be with you.
And also with you.
See you next time.
All the things we'll know. No myths to cloud the truth, just youth in search of proof. A love for facts aloof, in reason we're uncouth. Godless atheist happy, living life so snappy. No rules to find a track.